Welcome to Mind Your Mind. Mind Your Mind podcast is for busy people like you who want to enjoy life and free up their time and emotional space by learning valuable tools for self-care and mindfulness. Our weekly topics are filled with compelling discussions and practical solutions to increase your productivity and healthy living. I'm your host, Joseph Tropper, and I'm honored to have you here with me today. Welcome to episode 10, 7 Relationship Master Skills to Overcome 4 Disasters. Let's face it, we all judge ourselves based on the success or failings of our relationships, and they're really important. We invest our time in them, we want to be loved, we want to give love, and we want to be successful. And so if we could start thinking about these 4 disastrous things that people do in their relationships that really destroy them and replace them instead with 7 relationship master skills, we could be very successful. Today I'm going to be picking up much of the work of Dr. John Gottman, one of my favorites when it comes to marriage research and couple research and relationships in general. He's studied in his Seattle Love Lab thousands of couples, and his research is very compelling and very relevant, and something that I strongly recommend if you haven't checked out his book, 7 Principles for Making Marriage Work. It's a classic, and it's really very, very helpful, and a lot of the ideas from today come from there and other lectures that I've heard from him. I love hearing your feedback, and when you talk, I try to listen. So after episode 4, which is the 13 ingredients of healthy couples, got a lot of questions and a lot of feedback, and so this episode is, of course, it is self-contained, and that is my goal, that every episode will be self-contained, but it certainly will complement very well if you're working on those 13 ingredients, and will help you really spice things up, no pun intended. If you haven't listened to it, check it out. I really think you'll enjoy it. There's a great handout for that as well, and for this one as well, mindyourmindonline.com. Check us out. So we're going to talk about what Dr. John Gottman defines as the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, something that he's gotten a lot of fame for, and I really want to make sure we understand them, because the first step for overcoming them and making sure that we're not perverting our relationships with them is just being aware of them. And I'm going to start off with a quote, which is really the goal of what we're trying to accomplish today. And the quote is from none other than John Gottman himself. He says, "Friendship fuels the flames of romance because it offers the best protection against feeling adversarial toward your spouse." And that's what it's all about. We want to create an environment of safety and love and connection, because that is where things thrive and the relationship will really grow and help us feel safe and able to share with each other. And when we can understand these 4 disasters and instead replace them with 7 master skills, you will see how much this will help your life and, of course, enhance your relationships. So let's go through the 4 disasters first, and then we will talk about the 7 relationship master skills to replace them with. So for many, just the association of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, which we know is death, famine, war, and conquest, definitely brings up a lot and sends chills up our spine, because we never want to talk about our relationship that way. But the fact is that Gottman's 40 years plus of research have pointed him time and again to the fact that these 4 disastrous aspects really dissolve relationships, and there are ways to repair them. So let's be aware of them. The 4 horsemen of Gottman's apocalypse are criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling. So let's go through all those very clearly. So criticism is when you attack your partner's personality or character, usually with the intent of proving them wrong. It includes generalizations, nitpicking. You always say that. You never perform on time. You call that clean. So that type of criticism breaks down a relationship, because criticism is the opposite of intimacy and closeness. And that is something that we want to be cutting out of our relationship. Now, again, it's important to understand that in all these, everyone does some of these, but the question is, what permeates your relationship? And Gottman's claim to fame is that he could watch a couple for under 5 minutes and how they interact and predict with a 94% accuracy whether this couple will make it or not. So these are the 4 things that he looks for. Criticism. Number 2, contempt. That's attacking your partner's sense of self, looking down on them via giving insults or psychological abuse to put them down. And Gottman defines this as the worst one out of the 4 horsemen. And in my own research and in my own findings with couples, I see this as well. Because if you're contemptuous towards me, you really don't care very much about me. And it's so hard to get traction. And contempt breeds contempt. And so each partner starts becoming more contemptuous with the other. And that's when we really run into some really, really heavy trouble. And Gottman says that this is sulfuric acid. Contempt is sulfuric acid for love, and it erodes the relationship and the immune system. That's right, you heard right. It physically makes us sick. His research shows that the one of the biggest determining factors in whether a person will be, what their health will be like in the next 4 years is actually determined by how much contempt they're exposed to. So we really want to make sure that we're cutting out contempt from our life, and that starts, of course, with our own commitment to not using contempt when it comes to our spouses. And that means insults, name calling. Name calling is such a destructive force in relationships. You're fat, stupid, ugly, you're a slob, lazy, and vulgarities. They are so inappropriate and so not helpful for any relationship building. Sarcasm, mockery, body language, tone of voice, sneering, and the most common one that I see is rolling your eyes. This contempt destroys relationships. But before you go and tell your partner, hey, I figured it out, you're destroying this relationship because of your contempt, look at yourself, because often you will see that the contempt is starting and building between the two of you. It's a very contagious disease, and if you could take responsibility and try to do your part, that will be very helpful. The next one is defensiveness. It's number 3. That's seeing yourself as a victim, warding off a perceived attack, and without really addressing the validity of your partner. Kind of making excuses, cross-complaining, yes-butting, yes, but trying to explain yourself away. That defensiveness does not help the relationship move forward. Of course, it's a natural reaction. All of these are natural reactions, but no one said that being in a healthy relationship and being in a healthy couplehood doesn't take work, and that it doesn't take going against your nature. It often does. And the last one Gottman calls for is stonewalling, and that's withdrawing from the relationship or the conversation in order to avoid conflict. And this one often comes with good intention. Like Gottman found that partners often think that they're being neutral by stonewalling, but actually what he found was that they're not. They're showing disapproval, icy distance, separation, and disconnection. So we really want to get rid of these 4 things. Look at your relationship and ask yourself how much you're doing these things and what you could do to cut them down, and talk to your partner honestly about these 4: criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling, and you'll see it makes a huge difference in your relationship. So let's talk about solutions, because that's why you're here. So again, the general solution is just to notice that you're doing these things, and that will help you get back on track. But here I'll give you some specific 7 solutions to really help you turn this relationship around and to get rid of the criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling. Number 1, share clear hurts and requests, and make that in a when X happened, I felt Y, I want Z formula. So when you insulted me in public, I felt very sad and alone. I want you to tell me that you're going to make an effort not to insult me in public again. And that's very clear. Tell them how you want them to fix it. Because one of the big things about Gottman's research also is that it's not always how the apology is given, it's also how it's received. And it's how your partner is able to receive it and how they're able to hear very clearly what you're even asking of them. That's very, very important. In your mind, it might be clear what you want or what you don't want anymore, what you don't want to see anymore, what you don't want to feel anymore, but your partner needs that specific feedback. Number 2, use a soft startup and start from a place of unarguable truth and listen generously. Gottman found that when we start our arguments from a negative place and from an adversarial place, like his original quote, that destroys the possibility of coming to a conclusion. Start from a place where you both agree. Hey, we both want to do what's best for our child, if that's the conversation. Hey, we both want to make sure we have a good time on this trip. And listen generously, because when you listen to me, I listen to you. Number 3, shift to appreciation. So Gottman says you need to have 5 times as much positive feelings and interactions versus negative. If you remember from episode 4, I had quoted some researchers that said about 4 times as much, but look, I'd rather err on the side of caution and go for 5. Number 4, claim responsibility. What could I learn from this experience? Okay, and what could I do about it? You're always looking for ways to fix the situation. Number 5, rewrite your inner script. So replace your thoughts of righteous indignation, for example, or innocent victimization with thoughts of appreciation and responsibility that are soothing and validating to your partner. Look for your partner, try to meet them where they are, and try to understand their hurt, which is what's feeding into this as well. Number 6, practice becoming non-defensive. Allow your partner's utterances to be what they are. They're just thoughts and puffs of anger at that time. Don't take the bait. You don't have to respond. And let go of the stories you're making up. We tell these negative stories about our relationships and about our partners, and they're not true, and they're not fair, and they hurt you. They hurt you from accomplishing what you're trying to accomplish. And the last one, number 7, is a great story from Gottman. And number 7 is help your partner reach their dreams. The Gottman story is really very, very phenomenal. I've heard this from his own mouth. In 2000, Dr. John Gottman was trying to get his book published, and he was peddling it from one publisher to the next with a lot of rejection. It just wasn't a very, very popular topic back then, and nobody knew whether marriage books would go. They've always been, couples books have always been a little iffy. And so after a lot of rejection, he ended up in one publisher's office, and the executive said to him, "Listen, Dr. Gottman, I understand that you're doing a lot of work. Things are very difficult in my own personal situation. Give me some advice. You have 30 seconds. Give me some practical advice. How do I fix things in my relationship?" So Dr. Gottman looked at him and said, "Honor your wife's dreams." Well, the man marched out of the room. Dr. Gottman assumed that he had lost another contract, and he gathered his stuff and he left the meeting. Well, a few days later, he got a phone call from this company, and they said, "You have the contract, and we're going to publish your book." And he found out later that what happened was this guy heard the message, and it really made an impact on him. And he said to himself, "Honor my wife's dreams. I don't even know what they are." And he took the next train home, went home, and shows up at the door, and his wife looks at him midday. "What are you doing home? Did you get fired or something?" So instead of taking the bait and fighting with her, he said, "No, honey, I came to find out about your dreams." And she looked at him and said, "What?" And then he started explaining. They had a very, very nice and meaningful conversation, and it made a very big impact. And he listened to her dreams, and he really was able to validate them and understand her better. And she listened to his dreams, and things were amazing. And so Dr. Gottman says that although he was put on the spot and he wasn't, sure if that was the best advice to give, but he really stands behind that. That is an amazing thing. We all enter relationships, couplehood, with ideas that we're going to help each other and we're going to grow and we're going to bring out great things in each other. And when we're able to honor each other's dreams, amazing things happen in the relationship and amazing repairs happen as well. So give that a try. Overall, we really want to get rid of these 4 negative horsemen: criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling, because they have the potential to really deeply destroy our relationship. So thank you for listening. And I'm going to just move on to our last segment, which is just one question for today. And of course, as always, I welcome your questions. Just check us out on mindyourmindonline.com. And I look forward to hopefully featuring some of the things that you're interested in hearing about. So we have James in Maryland says, "My spouse speaks to me with contempt and says that I do the same to her. How do I get her to stop saying this?" All right, James, it's tough. It is, but there's 2 parts to that question. First thing is, chances are if she's speaking with contempt towards you, you're probably responding in kind. So really start looking at yourself and seeing how you're getting triggered when you're having conversations with your spouse, and put in that work to be able to overcome that. And that will make a huge difference in the relationship. And hopefully, as you cut out the contempt, she'll cut out the contempt as well. How do I get her to stop saying it? You're probably referring to both the contempt and the fact that she keeps saying that you're speaking contemptuously. Well, first thing is be curious and say to her, "I didn't mean that offensively, but let me know, educate me, teach me what was offensive about that so that I could stop doing that and speak to you in a different way." And how do you get her to speak differently to you? Well, work on the marriage and explain to her, what the contemptuous phrases sound like to you and what they push, the buttons that they push for you. And, ask her to share your commitment to be able to continue working on the couplehood. So to summarize, I'm really challenging you to check in with her, make sure that you're not speaking with contempt, and learn how to cut that out, and make a request for her to work on the relationship together with you. I think that'll make a big difference. In closing, just remember that criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling destroys relationships. They are what the disasters do. And what the masters do is to be able to be vulnerable, be present in the relationship, and be there for each other. Give it a try. I think you'll be very pleasantly surprised to see how well it works. Thanks so much for listening. And guys, one quick request: if you're enjoying the podcast, I'm really happy to hear that, and I really want to spread the word to other people. So rate us, subscribe, and please share us with other people. They'll appreciate it, and you can make an impact on their lives as well. Take care. Remember, criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling. All right, have a great day. Thanks for joining us. Don't forget to mind your mind. For more practical ideas and to make sure you never miss an episode, visit us at mindyourmindonline.com.